I know this is incredibly far away, but my camera is low on battery, and the charger is a little too close to my dresser, so yeah, that's why. I don't know. I try to tilt this down a little bit, because I'm just slouching like a mother. I'm just slouching because I'm lazy, so. Oh, sleep. I'm feeling a hunchback, if I don't already. Alright guys, I want to talk about something like this. I mean, I already knew. I should have done this on Star Wars Day, make another video about complaining about the prequels. I want to go over what I didn't really like about them. I'm going to repeat stuff I already said, but I'm going to do with a more clear clarification. There are many reasons why. I'm going to start off with the casting. The casting was terrible. But then, of course, there are other problems with that. They were just such bad cast members. I mean, they used so many kid actors. A lot of them I found bad. They were annoying. Some of them were just, they were just generic kid actors who just don't really have talent. They were just kind of put into a movie because, it's the director's idea, maybe an actor's idea, producer, who the hell knows. The use of kid actors didn't really work because a lot of them were bad, but also there were some very talented actors that were very underutilized. People like Natalie Portman. I mean, she won an Oscar for Black Swan. I haven't seen that. I really want to, because, I like Darren Aronofsky. I haven't seen a lot of his films. I seen Requiem for a Dream. Holy shit, what a nightmare that film is. Great direction, great editing. Holy shit, there's so many great cuts. They cut at the right times. This is some of the most creative editing I've ever seen. Not some of the best. Continuing on. There's also Ewan McGregor, who I think is kind of underrated. I saw Moulin Rouge. I thought he had some good singing talent. There was one scene where he kind of cracked, but that really wasn't a problem, because he's a very good singer. He actually has musical talent, and he is very talented as an actor. I thought he was really good in that movie. I also loved him in Trainspotting. I just loved that movie. He was really funny. He had credibility to that role. He kind of has credibility to Obi-Wan, but still he feels a little stilted because of the bad dialogue, writing, and direction and shit. Just really that. Yeah. Also, Liam Neeson I thought was a little bit redeemable. He was kind of like merely passable, but still he felt a little stilted. But I thought he added more flex. He was a little bit more flexible in terms of a personality and just how he is as a character. He was kind of insignificant because he would never really have any sort of role in the later films, only in the first one. And although I feel like he could be a little bit better as a character, but whatever. Samuel Jackson, he had some sort of credibility to the role, but he's still kind of underutilized, and he almost feels a little stilted. Most of the actors feel robotic in this movie. I don't know who plays Yoda. I think it's the same guy who voiced him in the original trilogy. Yeah, I think so. If not, comment below. I thought the guy who voiced Yoda here, he was fine. I mean, he mostly says dialogue that's not exactly pieced well together, the original trilogy or anything like that. He felt overboxed. I mean, the dialogue is just terrible. Hayden Christensen. What more do I have to say about how bad his casting is? I mean, he made Anakin a whiny bitch and so unsympathetic as a character. Though he was a lot more immersive as a character, like more engaging in Episode 3. Episode 2, fucking hell. And he was still bad in Episode 3, but of course, still a major improvement over Episode 2. Also, I want to complain that Episode 2 could have been a chance for Star Wars, the prequel trilogy, to really redeem itself after this massive disappointment that was Episode 1, Phantom Menace. There could have been so much they could have done, such as improve the storyline. I mean, not really focus on the politics. Try to give us a story that we give a shit about. Characters that we are engaged in. Maybe even make the characters that are still alive from this one more engaging. Recast Anakin. Because I feel like the actors, the ones that are cast, sure they're underutilized, but I think they're more fit for their roles. But improve the performances. Also known as a lot of kid actors. No. George Lucas decided to continue using kid actors, and Hayden Christensen was a terrible successor to Jake Lloyd, who I also thought was terrible. Wow, you are fantastic, Lucas. What the fuck, asshole? I still love you. We will always praise you for films such as, like heavily devoted fans may have seen your first film, THX-1138. I want to see that. We all love Star Wars. I love American Graffiti. And that's all I can say. Also, I do love, you producing and writing the stories for the Indiana Jones movies. You produce them alongside your friend Steven Spielberg, who directed them. I mean, I know you guys are good friends. although you two did ruin Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And overall, Lucas, your resume has been going down ever since. Yeah, that's not good. But we will still praise you, but we'll still criticize you as well. Overall, I still think he's a good director. He has a legacy. He's really, it's hard to really, I don't know. He's just a guy that has a legacy, and you can't really beat that, even though he almost tarnished it completely. He's gotten some credibility back. Episode 7 might bring that back. May shed light on that. Anyways, another thing I wanted to know the fact is that they use CGI way too much in these movies. I understand Star Wars was really groundbreaking the original trilogy was groundbreaking in special effects, but they also used practical effects in real sets. And that worked well, because at least they had a very talented effects team. But the problem is that they use CGI too much. And you can really tell. CGI, sometimes it looks really nice, some of it is well done, but sometimes they look dated. I think even episode 3, they still look dated, but they're still really impressive. I mean, they're very well detailed, they're beautiful to look at usually. There's a lot of detail put into them as the best they could, the technology, but I think really episode 3 has the best visual effects. But that's not really saying much because they overuse them way too many times. Most of the time, most of the characters are CGI, most of the sets are, most of it's just a green screen. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. It's way too overused, and it really shows. So yeah, they could use some practical effects. They used a Yoda puppet, which actually fell out of place. But luckily they did fix that with the CGI Yoda, which I thought was a major improvement. I heard from Fanboy Flick some people that heard that some people complain about it. I don't have a problem with it because almost everything is just CGI, so that's more fitting to it. And I thought it was more in place because it would have took me out of the movie every time you see a Yoda puppet on the screen. Yeah. Also, some of the characters. Jar Jar Binks. What more do you want me to say? Take him out of the movie? Mm-hmm. Or improve his character. Don't make him a stereotype. But to be honest, there were some characters, alien species, that were done to be there for merchandising, and many of them were poorly developed. They were really just stereotypes. Fucking focus. They were really just stereotypes. I mean, some people were talking broken English, like Japanese stereotypes, Asian stereotypes. It was sometimes kind of racist, really offensive. It just came off as insulting rather than enjoyable. Although, what can you enjoy with characters that are offensive in terms, like racially, like that are offensive in terms of like stereotypically and that shit? How? Like Wisa Misa? Who the fuck says dialogue like that? How stereotypical can you get with Jar Jar Binks? Jar Jar Binks is a poorly developed character. Also, I found him incredibly annoying. He also kind of fucked out the galaxy because in episode 2 he transported power over to Palpatine, which would later give him the power to create the Galactic Empire, leading to the destruction of Alderaan, and of course the Rebellion and the rise of the Sith. Also, yeah, really Jar Jar, fuck you. No wonder we don't hate you anymore because you're such an idiot and you're very unnecessary, very useless as a character. But you also you were really the factor that led to this, to the original trilogy, the war. Also, another problem I have is that this movie didn't always stay true to the lore of Star Wars. The mythology such as good versus evil, heroism, that. I don't know all the mythologies it takes inspiration from. But those are the most basic ones, like good versus evil. That's a classic example. That's a classic mythology. And the original thing about the Force is what gives Jedi his power. That's what I kind of heard it was, Alec Guinness say in the original trilogy as the old Obi-Wan. Like Ben Kenobi, because he changed his name so that the Rebel Alliance so that the Sith could locate him, which is a thank God. Thank God for that. Wow. And of course, this time the original prequels, it's midi-chlorians. Midi-chlorians are they're sort of like this genetic thing I don't know exactly what they are. They're just stupid. It's just like stupid. It's biological this time. Like how strong a person's connected to the Force. It's biological, like natural selection. That's not correct. What the fuck, Lucas? I seriously mean that. The original, I mean, like, there was such thing. I mean, like, original trilogy. If you believed in the Force, you could achieve it. You could get the Force. You could get the Force, and the stronger and the more you believe in it, and you can master it and become stronger with the Force. That really feels like heroism. That feels more like heroism, and also it's kind of inspirational because I mean this person gains power by believing in something. But here they just say it's like who wants the biological wars? What the fuck? Like who was selected? Who was given that chance? Doesn't make sense. Another thing is that the stories are terrible. They rely so much on politics. We don't give a fuck about that. The original trilogy, we had a civil war between the Rebel Alliance and the Sith. That is interesting. That's exciting. In the original trilogy, it worked. It was really exciting. Here, however, this relies on politics. It starts off with trade disputes. Second one relies on more politics. Going to a clone army or something like that. And then, of course, falls with Jar Jar, transferring all power to Palpatine. Third, episode 3, it's more interesting, but there's still politics in it. Palpatine, but of course, it's more interesting, such as Palpatine manipulating Anakin. You know, he has full power. I mean, so he has all the power to create the Galactic Empire. Leads to that. Worked well. That was actually good, but everything else was bullshit. Mostly because I don't think we give a shit about trade disputes. Those are actually kind of very boring. Yeah. Also, the relationship between Anakin and Padme is so forced. Not to mention the fact that Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman have no chemistry, and the dialogue is so stiff. So, it's so forced. It's just sad, sad, sad. Fuck. The characters are another problem. I didn't care really about any of them. Anakin, I fucking hated him. He was such an annoying bitch. I want him to be killed, even though he was going to become Darth Vader. This is basic known fact, guys. And I couldn't believe what came out of this film. Such as, like, you can't really care much about these characters. You can't, really, because they're so unengaging and so flat in terms of their personality, really. Also, the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan. They felt so distant from each other in episode 2, though they did improve that in episode 3. But, wow. Some characters, they just weren't all that developed. Some of them weren't all that fleshed out. They could have been a little better, and yeah. Another problem I have is the writing. The writing is so, mostly for episodes 1 and 2, are so bad. There's some problems within episode 3. But really, it's just, overall, the writing's terrible. The dialogue, holy fucking shit. The dialogue just doesn't sound like anything someone would say. George Lucas struggles with dialogue, but I swear to God, you could have written something better than this. The lines are so flat, it's not funny. It falls so flat. Attempts at humor fall flat. Characters, they're so poorly developed. There's also nothing really interesting going on. The events and the action sequences they're cool, but they're also a little of a problem. Why? Because there's no real source of tension. It feels too Hollywoodized and flashy, rather than emotional or intense. Kind of like the original trilogy. They're also, sometimes those things don't have any real build-up. However, episode 3 did have a good build-up between teacher and student. But the one with Darth Maul, that was really just thrown in there. Episode 2 had better build-up with, like Anakin, Obi-Wan, Count Dooku, Yoda and Count Dooku. Well, not really. Yoda was kind of thrown in for the ride. There wasn't a lot of build-up to that either. However, there was the fights are just too flashy. There's no real sense of tension or danger. However, episode 3, they make up for that by being more emotional, and I did enjoy that. But mostly, it's just too flashy. While it is cool to watch, there's no real sense of danger or any real sense of tension. So yeah, that's another problem. The direction's also pretty boring. The direction's also a problem because not only do you have to deal with such a bad script, but George Lucas can't really he can't really offer up anything interesting in the politics, or really anything interesting in the pacing. He can't really keep the pace going. It's so uneven most of the time. He also just doesn't even care about the performances. He just wants to do it, at making another Star Wars movie. We love Star Wars, man. Why'd you butcher it for us? Fuck. It's stupid. I mean, what the hell were you thinking? It's obvious that he can get the action sequences good. He knows how to do that. He also can capture some beautiful images whenever he's able to. But overall, he struggles in terms of the acting. Mostly because also his writing restricts him. One of my biggest problems is that George Lucas is trying to do this all himself, but the problem is he really shouldn't have done that. It's okay to bring other talents to communicate your vision. The original was written and directed by George Lucas. The episode 5, directed by Irvin Kershner, written by Lee Brackett and Lawrence Kasdan. Episode 6, directed by Richard Marquand, and it was written by Lawrence Kasdan, George Lucas. Episodes 1, 2, and 3. Now, episode 2 had the inclusion of another writer, Jonathan Hales. But mainly, episodes 1, 2, and 3, the entire Prequel Trilogy was written and directed, by George Lucas. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. There are times where it can work. I mean, the original episode 4, New Hope, was fantastic. Episode 5 was better. Return of the Jedi was good. But, yeah, it was kind of weak. But, it could have been worse. Sorry, I'm looking at my hand. My cat jersey scratched me really bad earlier. But I don't want to show you this, but, yeah. See? That's really the bad cut. There's some other cuts, if you can see them, but that's the bad cut. It's looking better. I can't believe I show that to you guys. What the hell's my problem? Also, guys, I also feel like that this movie just felt a little forced. I mean, this guy had so much time. He could have really written something more interesting. But also, I also feel like that Darth Vader, what I really liked about him was the mystery behind him. And when you give a backstory behind him, it kind of ruins that sense of mystery, but also maybe you can make that up for the interesting backstory. Turns out, not really. Only episode 3 is where it became interesting, such as the manipulation of Anakin and the battle between him and Obi-Wan. But overall, meh. And it started off poorly, but I had to admit it ended surprisingly pretty well. But like I said, the prequels are disappointing. Also, I was a little pissed off that it took 2 more movies to get anything good, to make a good movie in general. It's so fucking dumb. Still looking at my hand. It's looking better. Anyways, I was really disappointed at how it took so long to get one good movie out of the prequels. Episode 3 had the best CGI, the best performances. Jar Jar only said one thing. He never really was in the movie. He only appeared in a few scenes, which is a thank God, because then I went to be annoyed by him. There are some things that didn't work for me, such as Padme's death. She died of a broken heart, basically, which I thought was so weak. Some dialogue was still bad, but at least it was more enjoyable. And there were some pretty emotional moments. Great action sequences, but there were emotional moments. Actually, there was one scene involving a stormtrooper that I swear to God. This is how great the CGI is. And this was back in 2005. Whenever he was being sent the orders for Order 66, which is for the execution of all the Jedi, it's very emotional. And I love the score. The score has its really standout moments there. But one thing I really liked about it is that the stormtrooper, it looked real. It looked like actually they built a costume for it, but it was not. It was CGI. That's how good it was. Holy shit, that was just fantastic. Whoa. Overreacting? Not really, because if you've seen most of the films, you understand how over CGI is and how 1 and 2 look pretty dated compared to the third one, which feels also a little dated, but not really. It holds up pretty well today. But not as great as Lord of the Rings. What more do I need to say? Anyways, so I want to say some more things. Another problem I had was that they could have told a more interesting story. I mean, they really could have told maybe another war. Yeah, I know. Oh, you're repeating the same thing from the originals. Maybe give it some kind of war. Maybe like a political. Maybe it's a war between two different powers. I mean, not. But tell a story that we're invested in. Give us give us another war. One that took place long before. Because it would have been more interesting that way. I mean, we have an expanded universe in video games, and I've heard some of them are really good. So, what the fuck? Anyways, I'm touching my hand again. It's kind of irritating, but, you know, I'm not itching it. My hands look a lot better, too. Thank God for that. Another problem I had was that it just didn't really satisfy me as a whole. I enjoyed episode 2 a lot more than episode 1. Well, not a lot more, a bit more, but I thought there still needs to, they should have done better. They could have done better. I heard, the schmoes believe it's the worst, and I think Fanboy Flicks, Mark, thinks it's the worst also. I understand his problems with it, and I do agree that it is the worst in its own way and how they described it, but overall, I found more enjoyment in that movie than episode 1. But yeah, they were both bad. They were both pretty bad. Episode 3 was actually good. Although Mark from the Schmoes, yeah, he actually didn't like episode 3 as much. I find it surprising. It's actually his least favorite. What the fuck? Maybe it was Christian who said episode 2 was the worst. Yeah, must be it. That's another schmo. The schmoes know they have 2 guys, Christian and Mark. And Mark from Fanboy Flicks. But yeah, Mark from Fanboy Flicks said, yeah, episode 2 is the worst. Fuck. Anyways, guys, that's my opinions on the Prequel Trilogy. Comment below. Do you agree with some of my things? Do you not? Do you have any other? Do you have additional things to say? Tell me in the comments below, and subscribe to my channel for more videos.